Welcome to the presentation of a lecture from Gnostic Radio, a free public service from the Gnostic tradition of Samael Aun Weor. Gnosis is the root wisdom of all the world's great religions. Gnosis is a universal teaching of practical science, whose goal is absolute liberation from suffering and the complete development of the human being. This lecture is one of many available by free download or podcast. The hundreds of hours of lectures range in topic and complexity in order to address the many needs of humanity. Each Saturday, Gnostic Radio broadcasts live. The live lecture is accompanied by an online chat, allowing listeners to read additional explanations related to the lecture and providing an opportunity to ask questions of the speaker. To learn how to participate or tune into our continuous web broadcast, visit our website for more information at gnosticradio.org. Gnostic Radio is made possible by the financial support of listeners like you. For more information or to make a donation, visit our website at gnosticradio.org. Now, with heartfelt wishes for the end of suffering for all creatures, we begin the lecture. May all beings be happy.
Continuing our discussion about matter, energy, and consciousness, it's good for us to recall that these are the three aspects of every existing cosmic body: matter, energy, and consciousness. Meaning that from the smallest particle up to the biggest collection of particles, everything is made of matter, of energy, and consciousness. Naturally, we as human organisms have these three aspects. And as we've been explaining, we tend to be rather unaware of them. In fact, we tend to be asleep and to not realize the interrelationship of these three aspects of existence. We have a relative awareness of physical matter. Although it comes and goes, we tend to forget even that we're in a physical body. And we have very little awareness of our energy. We only really notice it when it's gone. And then we try to supplement it with energy drinks, caffeine, or other types of activities. And consciousness, we tend to not be aware of at all, to have no real knowledge of awareness, consciousness, mindfulness. Yet when we study the Gnostic tradition or any real form of mysticism or religion, our goal is precisely to unite and master these three forces, these three elements. To become a true Gnostic, in fact, is to have consciousness of your energy and matter. To be fully conscious and in control of your energy and matter. We begin that effort or that path by awakening consciousness. We awaken consciousness by saving energy and by retrieving energy from where it is trapped in conditioned matter. So our previous lectures were about that, how we do that. And if we've been applying those principles in our spiritual practice, the result should be that we should start to accumulate more energy. We should rather free energy. Instead of wasting energy in frivolous activities, or worse, feeding energy into harmful activities, whether physically or psychologically, we start to take that energy and apply it towards beneficial purposes. Helping humanity, helping ourselves to rise out of the mud of the earth. So that is the real purpose of these studies. It is to awaken consciousness and to free energy from matter, to dominate matter, but consciously for the benefit of others. In that effort, the student who's succeeding in conquering their own defects and errors, in changing their habits, discarding harmful and useless habits for useful ones and beneficial ones, they begin to change how their energy functions, change how their matter functions, and in fact change how their consciousness functions. And the result is that they begin to have more energy. Now this can have a dramatic effect, depending on the degree of intensity of the work of the student. Most commonly, that energy is immediately used by other egos. Most of the time, as soon as we start to get a little success in our meditation practice or our self-observation practice, we start to have that free energy, but other habits or other egos tend to take that energy for themselves. And we find ourselves back to zero. And so this is the challenge in the beginning for a beginning student. Ultimately, over a period of some serious effort, the student seeks to acquire what we call psychological equilibrium, which is where consciousness dominates the three brains. In other words, we have conscious awareness of what's happening with thinking, and we're able to maintain cognizance of that and not be swept away by discursive thought, habitual thought, obsessive thought. And secondly, we become more conscious of our emotional state and are able to cognizantly monitor the state of our feelings, what's arising and passing in our heart. And we're no longer swept away by reactions in an emotional way, like getting upset or getting excited. We're able to maintain that emotional balance consciously, cognizantly. And third, we're able to maintain conscious awareness and equanimity in our motor, instinctual, and sexual brains, meaning that we're not swept away by impulses, we're not swept away by sexual desires, we're not swept away by instinct. We're able to maintain control over our human machine, consciously, cognizantly. This is not easy. To arrive at this is not easy. It requires that we have a great deal of energy feeding the consciousness. But now we have a challenge that emerges. Really, it's emerging the whole time. As soon as we enter into the work, this challenge presents itself. But it really becomes critical at this point. And that is those elements that want that energy become very upset. They become angry. You see, as we've been discussing, we have an enormous amount of energy in us already, but it's all trapped. That energy is equivalent to consciousness. It's two parts of the same thing. You can't separate them. Energy and consciousness are united. But all of our energy and consciousness is trapped in habitual thinking in discursive emotions, in ego, in the subconsciousness, in anger, in pride, in lust, envy, gluttony, fear. All of those multitudes of elements in our submerged consciousness. There's enough energy there to create a planet, to give rise to an enormous, beautiful life, form of life, far beyond this type of physical body that we have now. Enormous energy, but we can't access it because it's sustaining the ego. And that ego does not want to let it go. It does not. It will fight. It will fight with every tool it has to keep that energy. So that's what we call the Black Lodge. That word Black Lodge has different applications. But the first and foremost meaning, it relates to our subconscious mind, unconscious mind, infraconscious mind. We have our own Black Lodge. That's what matters. It is our ego. It is all the egos in us that have all of our energy, consciousness trapped. And they use it to keep us enslaved, to sustain themselves. And that structure, that scenario, is symbolized in every religion in different ways. In Christianity, it's represented as the three traitors of Jesus: Judas, Caiaphas, and Pilate. And we find those same three traitors in every religion: high, net, and a puppy. 𝑑𝒂𝒓𝒕, and I forgot the third one in the Masonic tradition. But in every tradition we find those three traitors. And those three are also seven. They are the seven deadly sins. They are those virtues inverted. Pride that should be humility. Chastity that has become lust. So the energy, the consciousness of chastity is lust. It's trapped in ego. Same forces, but inverted. That is the Black Lodge. That is hell. That is in us. That is why we suffer. The challenge then is to learn how to change it. To do that, we first have to see the enemy. As long as we're living in a fantasy land, doing our best to convince ourselves that we really are good people doing our best, and that we really don't have ego, there's no hope for us. As long as we do not recognize the existence, the fact, the truth of the defects in our own mind, we will never change. We have to see the truth about ourselves. We have to be sincere. Truly sincere. Are we really gods? Are we really masters of the planet? Are we really masters of nature? Are we even masters of ourselves? Let's be honest. Let's stop faking like we know everything, like our science has solved all the problems, like our religions have solved the problems of immortality and eternity, like our families have solved the problems of unconditional love. They have not. We need to sincerely observe the facts of our lives and come to recognize that the core of the entire problem of humanity is not outside of us. It is inside of us. And this is what the story of David and Goliath represents. In the Bible, everyone's probably heard the story of that small boy David, the weakling, who, inspired by his faith in God, faced off against the Philistines and their terrible warrior, Goliath. That is the reality of our task. Because our consciousness, that free portion, is very small and very weak. That is the part of us that actually has virtue, that is untarnished by selfishness. It is more or less only 3% of our consciousness. The remaining 97% is trapped in self-love, pride, self-esteem, anger, resentment, hate, jealousy, envy, fear, gluttony, laziness. 3% is very small and very weak. And this is David and Goliath. So how are we, as the weakling, the child, to conquer the giant warrior who laughs at us, who mocks us? Normally, students come into these types of teachings and learns and may be amazed and impressed and very enthusiastic about the knowledge, and may develop a great sense of motivation and intention to succeed, and believe very much that they will do it. May even talk big. Yeah, I'm going to be an instructor, and I'm going to resurrect. I'm going to get my astral body, and my mental body, and my causal body, and I'm going to amaze the world. Well, that's all pride, firstly. And it's also completely unrealistic. The fact is, to achieve anything in this work, that I, that you, has to die. Everything that you think you are now is mistaken. We don't like to hear that. We don't like to say that. It's painful, but it's true. This structure of a self that we've sort of put together in this lifetime is all fake. It isn't our real identity. It's a hodgepodge, an aggregate, a collection of random junk that we've put together as a self. And it consists of our name, our memories, our history, our traumas, our tastes in music and clothes and fashion and people. But in reality, when you observe it objectively from the superior levels of nature, it is junk. It's garbage. It's meaningless, it's impermanent, it doesn't last. And I'll tell you something, the older people will know the truth of this. A single strong event in your life can shatter it. When your beloved one leaves you, when you lose all your money, when you become ashamed in front of your peers, that sense of self can be completely destroyed by a single common happenstance event. So where is the permanence in that? Where is the self in that? Where is immortality? Where is the beauty of the soul? Where is the mastery of the human being? There is none. That's all nothing. You see, real mastery is eternal. The real self is immortal. Consciousness, energy, and matter are all forms of one thing. They are eternal. Remember the lecture? The first law of physics. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only change forms. We need to change form. But to go through that change, we have to go through a great destruction. It's a great battle. It's a war. But it's a war against ourselves. It isn't a war outside. It isn't a war against the infidels or the unbelievers or the heretics or against other religions or other groups. It's a war against ourselves, against our own mind. And this is the thing, the subtlety, the importance that humanity never gets. We come to a religion, we want to just believe. We want to take a security blanket from that religion and believe we are saved and will be immortal and everything is fine now. This is a lie. Doesn't happen. Never has, never will. An angel, a Buddha, a master, emerges out of death, the death of the ego. All that is pure in us emerges out of that, and all that is impure dies. We are 97% impure. We have to pass through a great destruction. This is why we have to retrieve our energy from our ego and destroy that ego so that the energy can be transformed and rise up. First, we have to become a human being. We're not even human beings yet. We're animals. Animals with intellect. Animals who reason. We are walking, talking vessels of lust, anger, pride, fear, jealousy, and envy. All of that is animal. In the human kingdom, there are human virtues. Rarely do we see those in us. It's very rare. We have the potential, and they can emerge occasionally. But to cultivate them, to become them, requires a great effort. When we begin to save our energy, to retrieve our consciousness, and develop this psychological equilibrium, the battle over our ego intensifies. You see, as soon as we enter into these kind of studies, our ego presents resistance. The first form of resistance, the most common, is pride comes in and says, oh yeah, I'm going to be a great student. Now we think we are pride. We hear those thoughts and we think it's us. And we go right along with it. So we get seduced by our pride. Or some people say, no, that teaching's wrong. It totally disagrees with science or with my established religion or with my friends or my family. And so then we get dissuaded by pride, by jealousy, by envy, by fear, by the desire for security or comfort, by the desire for acceptance. Or we get dissuaded by laziness, who doesn't want to work. Many obstacles. But little by little, those obstacles intensify. If our consciousness is strengthening in the teaching, we're actually developing equilibrium, our ego starts to get even more subtle, even more crafty. It gets harder to maintain ourselves in the path. What we need to understand is what this path is really about. In order to move beyond being a mere admirer of gnosis, in order to actually embody and incarnate the teachings of Christ or Avalokiteshvara or Osiris or whatever name you want to use, we have to understand what gnosis actually is. Gnosis is not a belief. It is not a theory. We teach through the intellect and through concept so that we can understand the actual practice. But the actual science, the actual methodology, is a priesthood. It isn't just something to study in books. It is magic. But I'm not talking about magic like those guys on the stage that cut ladies in half. That isn't magic. That's illusion. The word magic comes from the most ancient tract language by modern science. It's the Proto-Indo-European language. That's at the root of all European and Hindu languages. And they date it at about 5,500 years old. That's pretty old. And in that language is the word mag, which means priest. This is where we get our word magic. Magic doesn't mean illusionist or illusion. It means priesthood. Real magic is the domain of a priest, a lama, a master, an angel. This is real magic. And that word mag means to have power, to be able. And what is it to have power? It is to have energy over matter. It is to have energy. If you have no energy, you have no power, right? If there's no energy in this building, there's no power. You can't do anything, you can't turn anything on, nothing works. To do anything, even to move your body, even to move your arms, your hands, your fingers, to move your eyes, you must have energy. That energy is power. That is the priesthood. That is what Gnosis really is. Gnosis is a path of magic. Again, we have to cast out that foolish notion of the word magic. It has nothing to do with comic books, with movies, with casting spells and making illusions and all that gobbledygook. Magic is real, but it has nothing to do with all of our fantastical ideas about it. So a real magician is a priest. And a real priest is someone who has power. Let's rephrase that. There are a lot of people in the world who call themselves priests. But they have no power. They cannot heal the sick. They cannot solve the world's problems. They cannot even help themselves. Many of those who call themselves priests are actually creating a lot of suffering for themselves, for other people. I don't just mean Western priests. We're talking about Shinto priests, Zen, Buddhists, Hindu, by whatever name. Imam, lama, priest, abbot, any spiritual leader. We're using the term priest in a generic sense to refer to any spiritual leader. A real priest has power. That's the definition of magic or magi. We've all heard of the famous 3 magi in the Bible. Those were not beggars. They were magicians. They were priests. And they have a deep symbolic significance. So a real priest has power, meaning that priest has energy. Where does that energy come from? Well, there are 2 places. We've been talking about how energy exists in a given system. And in us, the vast majority of our energy is trapped, so that most of us is in darkness. We only have 3% free consciousness, meaning 3% energy available that we can access and use. The rest is all trapped in our egos. So if we want power, to change our lives, if we want power to get something, to do something, where are we going to get it? Where do we all go to get power? Now. Where do we go now? Do we go inside? Do we meditate? Do we ask God? Do we pray? Do we find the way in ourselves to get what we need? No, we don't. We try to get it from somebody else. When we need food, we don't grow it ourselves. When we need money, we have to go work and we have to earn it, we have to steal it, we have to get it somehow. When we need to change something in our lives, where do we get the power, the energy to do it? So these people that have power in our world, where do they get their power? Do they get it from within? Truly, where do they get it? From other people. Right? Where does a politician get his power? From others. Where does a banker get his power? From others. Where does an actor or a musician get his power? From others. If you put that person who seems so powerful in our society and you put them out in the desert, totally alone, could they do what they otherwise would do? Could they get what they could get in society? Not just materially, but emotionally, intellectually, spiritually? Could the person who in society, who manipulates millions of people at a whim to satisfy his own interests or desires, what would happen to that person if they were completely alone in the desert with no one around? Would they have power? I don't think so. But now let's take the other side. If you put Jesus in the desert by himself, would he have power? Oh, yeah. What about Buddha? Certainly. What about Krishna or Moses? Absolutely. They would have power. Because their power comes from inside. Their power doesn't come from other people. Their power doesn't come from controlling or manipulating others. That's the difference. There are two places to get power or energy. From inside or from outside. In other words, there are two kinds of magic. White magic and black magic. Very simple. Another very simple way to characterize these two forms of magic. White magic always acts in harmony with the divine law. It always respects the laws of God. And it never enforces itself over the will of God. Ever. Period. Second, black magic is always against the will of God. Even when it seems to act in harmony or in accordance with the will of God. Now that's a tricky thing, which we'll maybe have time to talk about. In practice, it means when we try to get something and manipulate the will of another person, we commit an act of black magic. Period. That means when you lie, when you cheat, when you misrepresent, when you steal, that is black magic. That means most advertising is black magic. Because it's a lie, it's a cheat, it's a scam to get power, to get energy, to get money, to get control, to get influence by misrepresenting something, by offering a desire in exchange for a payment. That is black magic. Now the black magicians say, well, we're giving people what they want. It's an equal exchange. We're respecting the law. No, that is a lie. That is a lie. The law works with the scale, always. Black magicians manipulate even the law to satisfy their goals. So what is a black magician? It is a priest, a person who has power for selfish ends. In the most broad scope, that's the definition of a black magician. A person, a priest with power who seeks to serve themselves. I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people like that. A lot. that's why in the Gnostic tradition we say, everybody on this planet is a black magician. We don't go pointing fingers at certain people, saying, oh, so-and-so is a black magician, and that guy and that lady, they're black magicians. You should stay away from them. That is completely absurd. Because everyone who has ego is a black magician, period. This is what 𝑫𝒂𝒊𝒓𝒊𝒕 taught to us. This is what we have confirmed through our own experience. It is a fact. There's never any reason, any justification in calling anyone a black magician. But there are degrees. One thing is the common black magician like you and me. People that have ego, that have energy and misuse it. Who have selfishness and desire and want to feed those things. That's one thing. Because most of the time we do it unconsciously. We don't usually have really bad intentions. But then there are other types of black magicians who, through habituation, through the increasing of their desires, become more and more devoted to feeding their desires, to acquiring power through magic, through power, through energy. We need to talk about that, because those people are real. So what we're talking about is the Arcanum 18. In the Tarot, which is the golden book of the law, there are 22 major arcana. These are laws, symbols that are encoding or representing cosmic laws, cosmic structures. Arcanum 18 is called Twilight. It represents hidden enemies. It represents black magic. And what you see in the image are two dogs facing off against each other, one black and one white. And behind them are two mountains, two triangles, one black and one white. And in the waters below is an inverted black triangle covered by a scorpion. This image, card number 18, is very complicated. If you know anything about mathematics, you know that the number 9 is a fascinating number with a lot of power and a lot of mystery, because anything you multiply by 9 shows this magical relationship of the 9 with itself. You find 9 times 2 is 18, and 1 plus 8 is 9. Easy, right? But that mystery extends through everything related with 9. 18 is two 9s joined, but 1 plus 8 is 9. It's very interesting. There's a deep relationship between 9 and 18. Primarily, we need to grasp that all of us are under the domain of this arcanum, so long as we have ego. The ego belongs to Arcanum 18. It is the twilight. It is the lack of light. It is darkness. We are in darkness. We have ego. We have pride. We have gluttony. We have laziness. We don't have light. When we close our eyes, when we try to meditate, when we try to go out of our body to see God, to get guidance from God, we see darkness. We belong in the darkness because we put ourselves there. We are in the Arcanum 18. In fact, that's what this scorpion represents. The scorpion represents the traitor. We are the traitor. If you've been in any religion for any period of time or any spiritual movement, you always hear talk about traitors. In the Gnostic movement, you hear it all the time. So-and-so betrayed the master. So-and-so betrayed Master 𝑑𝒂𝒓𝒊𝒕. So-and-so betrayed Jesus. Always this talk about betrayers. They betrayed us. They betrayed me. Blah, blah, blah. This is also ridiculous. Let me ask a simple question about traitors. Who is the most important, loving, beautiful, vibrant, life-giving person or force in the entire universe is your Divine Mother. Who betrayed her? You did. So who's the worst traitor anywhere in the universe? You and me. We betrayed our own mother through fornication, through adultery, through all the crimes we've committed throughout our existences. We are the traitors. No one else. We don't have to point fingers at anyone. We betrayed our own Divine Mother. There is no greater crime. You can point fingers all you want, but you're fooling yourself as long as that finger is pointed at anyone else. If you've betrayed your mother, if you have your ego alive, if you have fornicated, committed adultery, stolen, lied, all that, you are the worst traitor anywhere. That is that scorpion. That should affect us. Let us not get caught in politics, pointing fingers, blaming people, comparing ourselves, saying, we're better than them. Our group is true to the master. Our group is true to the teaching. We are true to the masters, to Gnosis, to the White Lodge, blah, 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 whatever. No, none of us are. Because we all have ego. And every one of us betrayed our Divine Mother. That scorpion is a reminder of that. And that black triangle that the scorpion sits inside is our ego, submerged in the abyss. That triangle represents the three traitors that I mentioned. Different religions represent them with different names, but they are the demon of the mind, the demon of the heart, the demon of the sex. All of us have those three traitors. None of us are free from those three traitors until we resurrect. Then we're free. Then we are truly worthy. After resurrection. Before resurrection, we are sinners. So let's not put ourselves above anyone else. So this Arcanum 18 represents the battle, the war, the fight. It is the battle of two nines. It is the battle of white against black. It represents the eternal struggle between the gods and the demons. But most importantly, it represents the struggle in ourselves between our energy and our energy. Our consciousness and our consciousness. Our house is divided. Our house is not united. Our psychological, spiritual house. We are at war with ourselves. We can't even make a decision from one day to the next without second-guessing ourselves, without contradicting ourselves. We're always in conflict, always in doubt, always tripping over our own feet, always nudging our neighbors and our loved ones in the eye, bruising everyone, making people bleed, making ourselves bleed, because we are in conflict. We are Arcanum 18. We are a house in disorder. So, what we need to grasp is that the battle that we're waging is very serious. And not easy. And we need to work hard. We need to be serious. We need to have our feet on the ground. We need to be strong. The main, most important thing, put your faith in God. Remember your Divine Mother. Pray constantly. This is the best advice I could ever give you. Apply the basic factors of the teaching. Stop harmful action. Adopt virtuous ones. Train your mind. Right? And help others. We have to apply those principles constantly. In spite of that, we will have a lot of problems. We will have this conflict between the white and the black in ourselves. The black aspect wants its energy, and it does not want to release it. And you'll discover the truth of this as soon as you start trying to work on your lust. Lust does not want to change. It wants to stay fat and well-fed. And your pride does not want to change. Your pride does not want to humble itself. Your pride always wants to stand tall. Your pride does not want to love your enemies. Your pride wants to crush them. And we take these characteristics with us into our spiritual life. And we have conflicts with our brothers and sisters on this planet. And we want to crush them. That is not spiritual. That is pride. That is anger. So the attacks will begin the minute we begin transmuting our sexual energy. That's when it starts. If you're a casual student, you listen, you read a little, you study a little, but you don't transmute your sexual energy, none of this will affect you. Because you're in the hands of your traditional habits, and your energy is still being withheld by your subconscious, unconscious, and infraconscious mind. And so all the black magicians are happy. The ones inside of you and the ones outside of you. Because you are a sheep being led to slaughter, and no one's the wiser. But when you begin to try to take that fire from the devil, to try to steal that energy back from the thief, he gets really mad. He gets enraged. And he'll use every trick in the book to get it back from you. That means in all three brains. He'll work through your intellect, through your demon of the mind. He'll work through your heart, the demon of the heart, the demon of ill will. And he'll work through the demon of sex, desire. Now this is where things get interesting. And I hope I have time to go through this. There's a lot to try to talk about. The most common experiences that students have when they begin to transmute the sexual energy is they start to have nocturnal pollutions. They start to have wet dreams. They start to have lustful dreams. They start to experience losing energy. They have all kinds of temptations that emerge both at night and during the day. They try to meditate, and the mind is worse than it was before. They enter into conflict with their families. Their friends leave. They lose their job. The whole life seems to go into complete chaos. And so most students, sadly, say, this teaching's no good. It's destroying my life. And they fail to realize that it should be doing that. That means it's working. But what you have to do is sustain it and not get identified. Not react, but be in the middle, in equanimity. Whether things are good or bad, painful or pleasant, to be the same person. Peaceful, serene, loving. So, if you're a person who's married and you discover this teaching of transmutation, and you feel in your heart and soul that it's real and true and you must do it, and your wife or spouse, your husband says, if you even think about it, this relationship is over. Is that something new? Nobody heard that before, right? Yeah, I think probably most people have heard that. Well, that's a great ordeal. That's not the fault of the teaching. It's your karma. Face it. Be serene. Now, what is the wrong answer? What is the wrong reaction? To attack your spouse, but everybody does it. You're not listening to me. You're so stubborn. You're so lustful. You're caught up in da-da-da-da. And we just get into a big battle, and everybody suffers. What is the right attitude? Love. Understand the point of view of your spouse and respect them. Even if they disagree with you, Love them with all of your heart. As Paul said in the gospel, in his epistles, I believe it was, you know not if you may save your wife. So don't put your wife aside, your spouse aside, just because of that. You have a commitment. Live up to it. Now that principle applies to every other situation in life. When we are trying to actualize these teachings in our lives, we have conflicts with our coworkers, we have conflicts with other students or with other schools or religions, we have to apply the same principle. Treat everyone equally and with love. We have never any reason or excuse to get angry or to act in a vengeful manner. Ever. A true Gnostic student always keeps their bodhicitta. Compassion, loving kindness, patience, serenity, concern for the well-being of others, even black magicians. We have a great example in that in our teacher 𝑫𝒆𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 And he respected their life. And they would come visit him at his house. And his wife did not like it. But he allowed it because he respected them, he loved them. If you've not read the book, The Revolution of Beelzebub, read it today. It will change your life. It will demonstrate to you how a master behaves. Not these cheap fly-by-night masters that write a lot of books and make tons of money. I'm talking about a real master. A master who's beyond good and evil. A master who has embodied love. So, the point is, when we begin this work, we start saving a lot of energy relative to our efforts. Our ego tries to take it, and so do other people. Remember I was explaining the two kinds of magic. The white magicians respect the law, and they find the energy in themselves to do what they need to do. Black magicians take their energy from other people. So, how do they do it? Through our ego. Let me repeat that. I'll come back to this. There is a lot of talk in occult schools, mystical schools, Gnostic schools about black magicians and that we need to defend ourselves and we have to fight against the black magicians and we have to do conjurations and we have to be at battle to save humanity and all this military type of talk, which is fine. The problem is they're missing the point much of the time. The key factor. How does the thief get into your house? How does someone steal from you? How does a warrior kill another warrior? They have to find a weakness in the defenses, right? If you want to win a battle, you need to find the weakest part of your enemy's defense. And you have to exploit that. It's simple. It's simple and it works. So what is our weakness? We have a lot. Firstly, we're totally asleep. We think we're masters of the universe when we know nothing. We think we're super smart and very intelligent and very educated, especially about God and spirituality, when we've never had a single experience with God. We've not even had a single experience in the astral plane, but we think we're experts about the astral plane. That is our weakness. We are foolish. We are naive. So that's what will be used to cheat us. The main point, before I get into the specifics of what can be used against us, is that only what is within you can be used against you. Very simple. If you have pride, black magicians will use your pride to destroy you, to take your energy and to make you their disciple. If you have lust, they will use your lust. If you have fear, they will use your fear. And your ego is the same way. Your ego is this big collection of very clever, crafty consciousness trapped in desire that wants energy. And it will use whatever you're weak to. Whatever your weaknesses are, they will exploit. Furthermore, the black magicians will use those egos to manipulate you. It's very simple. So if you want to defend yourself, that's the main thing to learn. So when we begin to experience problems of black magic, here are some general guidelines of what we can look for. These methods of attack happen in two primary ways. The first is during dreams. Now, of course, most of us are completely unconscious all night. Wake up in the morning and remember nothing. That's a problem. That's a big problem. If you're working to transmute your sexual energy, to save energy, to revolutionize your spiritual life, you need to become aware of the process of dreaming. You need to awaken. You need to take charge of that half of your lifetime. Because seriously, you spend half your life in bed sleeping. Maybe not fully half. Some people do. Maybe it's a third, but still, it's a lot. And secondly, they attack when we're supposedly up and awake walking around, what we call the vigil state. But still, we're really asleep and dreaming. So the main first point, wake up. During the day and at night, wake up. Pay attention. Watch what's going on. Let me clarify something real quick. A black magician doesn't wear a black robe all the time and have a bunch of tattoos and a hook nose and black hair that's spiked out all over the place with a bunch of piercings. No, those are not black magicians. A black magician cannot be seen with physical sight. You will never recognize one by the way they dress, the way they talk, the way they act, what the music they listen to, nothing like that. It's impossible. They're normal people, just like you and me. We're all black magicians. Firstly. And secondly, the really dangerous ones look really sweet, humble, nice, charitable, spiritual, and lovely. They don't look like demons. They don't have tails, physically. They don't have horns coming out of their head. They don't have red skin and big, long fingernails. They're normal-looking people. In fact, they're very sweet, kind, gentle, exemplary citizens. Generally in positions of power. Generally in positions of a lot of power. Those are the real black magicians. The ones who are awakened black magicians. And we would never suspect them. So let's clarify that first. How do they attack? 𝒂𝒊𝒓𝒊𝒕𝒖���𝒂𝒓𝒄 in his very important book, Logos Mantra Theurgy, describes this in detail. Really, the lecture I'm giving today is a very imperfect, very bad introduction to that book. If you want to know what I'm talking about today, you need to read that book. Logos Mantra Theurgy. It's in the new edition of the Divine Science. Any serious Gnostic student should have that book memorized. You will need it. It's that important. So the way that the awakened black magicians manipulate our ego to get power, there are multiple ways. Black magic is one, and of course that's a priesthood that uses power in an egotistical way, through desire. That's through all kinds of rituals, mantras, practices, meditation, tantra, transmutation, you name it. They have millions of techniques, truly, millions of techniques. And the bookstores are filled with them. Not just the New Age section, not just the occult section. The business section is full of them. The psychology section is full of them. The religion section is full of them. Books of black magic. They're not black books with pentagrams on the front. They're really nicely designed. But the contents are pure black magic. The second way is through psychic obsessions. To learn in detail what these subjects mean, you need to study the books of Samael. He explains them very well, far better than I can. But a psychic obsession could be something that we get fixed on in our mind, whether it's a belief or a theory, that we won't let go of. For example, if we become a fanatic of anything, that is a form of black magic. It is a form of being obsessed by a concept or a theory or a belief. That means that fanatics of Christianity are being manipulated by black magic. Fanatics of Buddhism, fanatics of Gnosis, fanatics of science, fanatics of this political party or that political party. They're all being manipulated by black magic. And every one of us here is a victim of this type of manipulation. We all have psychic obsessions. 3 enmities. This is conflicts between people. Quite simple. An act of war is black magic, where powers manipulate people to fight each other. It can happen even in a family. A person that has a lot of vengefulness in their heart, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, can manipulate 2 other people in the family to fight each other, just for entertainment. I've witnessed that many times. That's black magic. Whether it's conscious or unconscious, I don't know. But it's black magic. It's manipulating people because of desire, because of anger, resentment, all that. When we see fighting between religions, it's black magic. When we see fighting between spiritual schools or spiritual groups, it is black magic. God does not do that. 𝒂𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒊𝒕 does not do that. No master performs black magic. No white master. No white master is engaged in foolish politics or creating schisms in groups. None. That's all black magic. It's all the Black Lodge working through the egos of people, manipulating them because they're asleep. It's quite simple. Number 4, organic illnesses. Black magicians can inject substances through our food to affect our physical and psychological well-being. Be very careful what you eat and drink. Do you even know what's in Coca-Cola? Do you even know what's in fast food? Do you even know what your neighbor gives you? What your friends at school give you? What your student at your spiritual school is giving you? Do you even know what's in there? No, none of us know. Let's start making some connections. Let's look at the behavior of people in society and what they eat and drink. There's a very strong relationship. Very strong. The reality is, there's a lot of black magic in our food, in our water, in substances that are injected into us, whether physically or internally. A lot. Science is a big propagator of black magic through all kinds of chemicals and different creations. Number 5, vices. This one should be obvious. If you're really enslaved to your lust, you are child's play to a black magician. You're not even worth bothering with because you're so easy to manipulate. When you're addicted to pornography, when you're addicted to looking at other people on the street, when you're addicted to fantasizing about lustful images, very easy for any common on the street black magician to take all your energy from you. No problem. No effort at all. They don't even have to sweat for that. Easy. Number 6, culture. A lot of black magic here in culture. The way many black magicians manipulate our media, television, movies, books, theater, music, very deeply steeped in black magic. I'm not talking about guys that dress up like they worship the devil and play guitars. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about real black magic, where through our culture, through what's cool, through what's hip, through what's accepted, through what is desired by society, we give all of our power, all of our energy, all of our acceptance and agreement. This goes through politics. It goes through our music tastes. It goes through our economic and social choices. A lot of black magic. A lot. And we all just go right along with it, thinking that we're just fitting in with society. And really, we're just pawns of black magicians, giving them power. Going along with the system like sheep to the slaughter. Number 7, false prophets. This one is easy on the surface, but humanity really falls victim to this. Who do we put up as prophets nowadays? Actors, politicians, musicians, right? We don't really put up priests so much or spiritual leaders anymore as prophets. Not like we used to. Now we put up as prophets people that run big companies, right? If such and such a guy from this company says something, wow. We better put all of our money into that stock, right? Black magic. Pure and simple. False prophets. Of course, primarily we're concerned with spiritual aspect here. There are a lot of people out there claiming to be masters, claiming to be spiritual leaders, etc., etc. It's very difficult to tell who is and who is not. That's why in this tradition, we stick by a simple rule. Do not follow anyone. Period. Follow your innermost. Your inner being, your inner Buddha, your inner angel is the only one you can trust. To be more explicit, don't trust me. Seriously, don't. I have ego. I have a lot of ego. I'm easily confused. I have a lot of problems. I have a lot of mistakes. I am not a master. I am not a spiritual guide. I'm not a spiritual leader. I'm just a foolish Gnostic student who for some reason keeps teaching these lectures. And I really hope to stop. Follow your innermost. That's the only way to be free of false prophets. Even then, you have to be careful. Because when you're working in the internal worlds, it's also difficult to see the truth. It takes a lot of skill. But luckily, in this tradition, we have the techniques that you can learn to do it. 8, inferior elementaries. And this is using forms of consciousness and energy that are trapped in matter that can be manipulated in order to influence other people. This includes plants and larvae and all kinds of things, including incubi and succubi. Incubi and succubi are condensed energy that condenses into matter in the vital plane or the astral plane. When a female masturbates, she creates an incubi. And when a male masturbates, he creates a succubi. And those are mental forms that condense his consciousness and energy and then want more energy to sustain themselves. And they seek their parent, the woman or the man who created them, to feed themselves. So most of the time, especially in the beginning for a student, when they have wet dreams or they're having orgasms at night during their sleep, it's because their own creations are taking that energy, the energy that created them. We have to dissolve them. We have techniques to do that. You can use sulfur or asafoetida, which are plant substances that you can use, or mineral substances that you can use to dissolve them, disintegrate them. And the practice is given in the book Logos Mantra Theurgy, how to do that. Moreover, black magicians use those elements to take our energy and to influence us, to make us fall. So if we have a friend or some connection with a person who hears that we're in Gnosis, maybe it's a close friend and we don't realize they're an awakened black magician. We've been telling them all about Gnosis, and they're like, yeah, right, I'm already awakened. I'm not going to let you do that. I want your energy. I'm going to keep taking your energy the way I always have been. So that person just uses your own incubi or succubi to make you keep losing your energy until you give up. And a lot of students have that experience. They're trying to save their energy, they're trying to transmute and do their pranayamas, but they just can't do it. They stop. That's because a black magician was nearby going, I want my energy. You're not taking it from me. So they're manipulating their egos and their own incubi or succubi very easily. So the way to get past all of these attacks is to transform that Arcanum 18. You see, that 18, when we add the 1 and the 8, we get 9. This is a big deal. It might seem like number games to you. This is how Kabbalah works. Very important. The number 1 of that 18 is the magician. Again, this is not a conjurer or an illusionist. This is a priest. That magician is not you. Shall I say that again? That magician is not you. That magician is your innermost. That magician is your inner being, your inner God. That magician is God in you. So that means you need to remember God. If you're facing any attack of black magic, any struggle in your spiritual path, and you don't know what's happening, you don't know why it's happening, you don't know what's going on with you, you're sick, you're under attack, you're losing your faith, you're losing hope, call your inner being. Don't go to your friends. Don't go to some so-called master. Don't go to your instructor. Pray and meditate and call your inner God, your inner Buddha, your Yidam. That is the magician. That is the number 1. That's why it's first. Most of us don't do that. We get out all the books and we're flipping through the books and we're going on the internet and we're going here and there and calling our friends, what should I do? What do I do about this? What do I do about that? And we're going in the forum and chat rooms and all this, and always avoiding our innermost. He's the one with the power. He is the magician. And he can help you. But he can only do it in accordance with the 8. That 8 is justice. That 8 is the law. Do you see the scale here? The karmic law. That means if you have no dharma, if you have no credits with the law, what can he do for you? If you've done nothing to help others, the law owes you nothing. Period. If you want help, you have to pay for it. Not with money, with actions. Sacrifice for others. Help others. Work on yourself and help others. That's how you earn the aid of justice. This 8 also represents Gebra, your divine soul. These two united form the full master. And that comes when you reach the first initiation of major mysteries. But that's another lecture. When you add them together, your innermost, working with the law, you get 9, the hermit. Stated another way, when your innermost unites with Gebra, you become an initiate. First degree of major mysteries. First serpent of Kundalini. That is where you begin to enter the path as a master on the way. Your being becomes a master at that stage. This number 9 is the hermit, who represents a true initiate. Number 9 means prudence. Do you know what that word means? Prudence? I think it's a word a lot of people hear, but I don't think many people can define it. But it's very important. Prudence means to have foresight, to have wisdom, to act intelligently. Someone who is imprudent is very naive and very foolish, like all of us. Always getting into situations with people before realizing what a bad idea that was. Like becoming close friends with a person who's a really bad person, but we couldn't tell. Or getting married to a person who's a really bad person, but we didn't realize it. That is imprudence. We have a lot of that. What this number 9 is saying is that when we're walking from the lunar path to the solar path, we need to become prudent, meaning intelligent. We have to learn how to manage our life with wisdom. That is the guidance of God. To be prudent. This is one of the key elements in overcoming any black magic. Being smart. Remember I was telling you, how does a thief steal from you? How does a warrior conquer another warrior? Through any weakness in their defense. Well, spiritually speaking, we're all sleeping out on the street. We don't even have our doors locked. We don't even have armor on. We're totally exposed, and we go around all the time saying, here I am, take anything I've got. Because we're blind, deaf, and dumb spiritually. None of us are awakened in the astral plane. None of us are even awake in the physical plane. So those that are awakened, we're like dumb sheep. Really. Very dumb. Stumbling around with our eyes closed. Muttering to ourselves. No awareness at all of what's going on in reality. Prudence is the work to change that. It is very difficult. Moreover, it is solitary. The hermit is alone. This work is solitary. It does not mean... Many people think you have to have a school, or you have to have a teacher, or you have to have a spouse to walk the path. No way. What you have to have is willpower. That's it. If you have willpower, you can do it. No teacher, no school, no spouse, no help, just will. That's enough. And from that, you learn prudence. You learn to be smart. You learn to stop leaving your doors unlocked. And you learn to stop getting into stupid situations. So, methods and elements of defense. The most important, the single most important, is bodhicitta. What is bodhicitta? Well, that's a deep topic. We've given lectures on that and still barely scratched the surface. But in synthesis, it means the awakening mind, the awakening heart. It means cognizance of emptiness in combination with cognizant love. In other words, do not lose your equilibrium under any circumstances. No matter who you deal with, no matter what situations you face, treat everyone you meet with respect and love. If a black magician is attacking you, you awaken consciousness in the astral plane and you're surrounded by black magicians, don't react with anger or fear, which is what we're going to do anyway. I'm just telling you to try to be serene, to remember your being is with you, and to look upon these black magicians as what they really are, confused people. That's all they are. Demons are just confused people. Nothing more. Those who have been a parent and have dealt with a confused, angry child know that it's possible to deal with that child with a lot of love and restraint. To not let the child hurt you. They may be lashing out, right, trying to hurt you. You can hold them, you can restrain them, and treat them with respect and with love and compassion, right? We have to do the same thing with black magicians. However, we do not do that with our ego. Our ego deserves to die. Period. No mercy. But when you're dealing with another person, another entity, another being? Yes. We have to show compassion. We have to show love. It doesn't mean we let them trample on us. It means we have to defend ourselves. That is bodhicitta. It is a mind that is in equanimity, that has cognizant love as its chief virtue. You see, 𝒂𝒊𝒓𝒊𝒕𝒖���𝒂𝒓𝒄 was attacked more times than any of us could possibly count. People tried to assassinate him in the physical world, many times. But you didn't see him chasing after his attackers with anger, or trying to kill them or get revenge, or blaming them or condemning them to hell. He never said, "Be damned and go to hell." He never said that. All his students say that. Did you know that? All of his students say that. They're always condemning others to hell. This is wrong. It's wrong. We're already in hell. Where are we going to go? They can condemn me to hell if they want, but I'm already in hell. I don't care if they condemn me or not. There's a story that illustrates some of these principles. Yeah, I'm getting out of time and I still have a lot to talk about. But this story's good. That Samael told some of his students. That I just heard. I hadn't heard it before. And Samael was telling these students that he found himself in a beautiful temple. Very extravagant, beautiful place. Very sacred feeling. And when he realized he was there, some of the people in robes there came and put a sacred crown on his head. But because he wasn't fully sure where he was, he held it. Right? He grabbed it with his hands and held it there. And then they led him up to the altar. So he went up there to the altar. And he was looking, and it was very beautiful. All the devotees were there, and all the masters, and the beautiful altar, and the light, and the incense, the whole thing. And he went up to the front, and he said, "Okay, be a man. Tell me the truth. Are you black magicians or white magicians? Be honest." And these venerable elders sitting around the altar said, "We are black magicians." And Samael took the mantle on his head and threw it on the ground. He said, "Then I don't need this." Of course, they all attacked him. And he had to fight very hard to get out. This is a true story. What it represents is that even when you have your consciousness very awake, sometimes you cannot tell where you are. Never assume that you know. Never. Always maintain a sense of equanimity and distance, and at the same time, respect. They attacked him, but he didn't respond with anger. He defended himself and left. He didn't let them hurt him, but neither did he go and seek revenge and knock the whole temple to the ground and, he went away. He walked away. We should do the same. If someone's choosing to take that path, it's their choice. Adios. Let them go. So that's really the first two factors here, bodhicitta and psychological equilibrium. We need to always maintain that. This is the best defense. If you have psychological equilibrium, really have it, a black magician can't manipulate you. It'd be very difficult for them because you have control over your three brains. So when they try to tempt you with anger, with resentment, with lust, you're watching your three brains and you're saying, "Oh, I see that element. I'm not going to let that element come into my mind or come into my body and control me. No way." And then you go and meditate, which is the next factor. Meditation. Without meditation, you can never defend yourself. Meditation is what empowers everything. It gives you the ability to control and manage all your energy. We have to meditate every day. And next, obviously, transmutation. If you're not transmuting, you're not even in this work. If you stop transmuting, you will soon be out. Don't stop. Every day. Work with your energy consciously, cognizantly, in a pure way, and offer it to God. Make every transmutation an offering to your innermost. That is the way. Not entering into transmutation thinking, now I'm going to get power. Now if I do this tantra, I'm going to awaken all my chakras, and I'm going to get powers. Yeah, you might, but through pride, through lust, through desire. And don't think chastity is the way you're going to get there. There are many examples of Gnostic students who restrained their energy, who transformed their energy, and awoke as black magicians because they had too much pride. This is in the books. Mystery of the Golden Blossom, chapter 38, I think. Treason. The next, cleanliness and health. Remember I mentioned that the black magicians use illnesses and substances that are injected into us to manipulate us? That means you need to take care of your health and you need to be clean. Stop eating garbage. Don't eat things if you have a sense or a feeling in your heart that it's no good. If somebody comes and offers you food, but you have this feeling, you know what? I don't know if I trust that person. I don't know if I know where this is coming from. I don't know about that. Do not eat it. You can be nice and say, oh, thank you very much, and take it away and throw it out. You don't have to hurt their feelings. You don't have to say, oh, I think you're a black magician. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not going to help anyone. Be kind. Be respectful. But also, the most important thing, listen to your heart. Be prudent. Cleanliness is a big deal. Not only of your body, but your house. If your physical body is always dirty, that can be used against you. Be clean. Harmony with superior laws is the next one. That means if you owe a karma, if there's something painful that's happening to you, the easiest way to change that is to override it with a superior law. To transcend it with a superior law. The best way, sacrifice for others. Do something to help other people. Give up your own will for the benefit of others. And this is a very powerful way to overcome black magic. If you've got, like, let's say a group of people who are rallied against you, and they're working the minds of everyone to convince everyone that you're bad, and that you're evil, and that you should be kicked out or fired or sent to hell or whatever it is they want to do with you. Maybe they want to, hang you up to a pole someplace. The best way to overcome that is with light. By doing good. By being good. By being sincere. Not to react in turn, not pointing fingers back at them. Oh yeah, but you guys did this and you guys did that and blah, blah, blah. No way. It's only going to get worse. If you act with serenity, you treat everyone with respect and love, and you act with a superior level of being, they will never be able to touch you. Never. And all the great masters have demonstrated that beautifully to us. The next is intellectual culture. We are very easy to fool when we don't know what we're doing. Think about before you knew about this teaching. Some of you may be new, but some of you have been studying for a little while. Try to remember what it was like when you didn't know anything and how naive and stupid you were. The difference is intellectual culture. Think of how easy it is to fool a 3-year-old compared with an adult. Well, actually, that's not a good example. 3-year-olds are sometimes smarter than adults. So I take that one back. When we have a robust conceptual understanding of spirituality, we are very difficult to fool and manipulate. And let me state something that Samael Aun Weor stated in many books. The single most dangerous tool that black magicians use is your intellect. You really need to think about that. We all think, well, the black magicians are using rituals, they're using mantras, they're using potions, they're using animals and plants to send magical elements. They're doing all these things to manipulate me. No. Let's back up a second. The single most powerful and dangerous tool they have is your own mind. It's not all those other techniques and tools. It is your own mind. And it is how they will infect your mind with wrong ideas. intellectual arguments about why fornication is good, about why Samael is bad. This and that. Many arguments, many explanations, many theories, many teachings, many good reasons with black magic. So we need a strong intellectual culture. We need to study and know the teachings very deeply. Samael and Vior stated, we have to memorize the Kabbalah. We have to memorize the 22 Arcana. I didn't make that up. He said that. Do we all have it memorized? Oh, I don't. I'm still trying to learn. It's a lot to learn. But there's also a lot to conquer. White magic is the final form of defense I'll mention here. What is white magic? There's a whole range of techniques and practices, rituals, mantras, prayers, the vast majority of which are not taught in the physical world. We have a lot. And Samael and Vior wrote 60 or 70 books teaching techniques and practices of white magic that we can all learn. But most of them are in the internal worlds. First and foremost, of those techniques and practices of white magic are prayers. If you don't have these memorized already, start today. These prayers should come off your tongue without you even having to think about it. You know why? Because you need them in the astral plane. Physically, you can use them, and they're very powerful. But where you really need them is when you're outside of your body and you're asleep. And you need to train yourself that as soon as you realize you're in a bad situation or you're being attacked, these prayers come immediately to your tongue because they have a great deal of power. They channel forces. They call the help of the divine. There are many of these prayers. I listed a few here. Pater Noster is the Our Father. This is an extremely powerful magical prayer. It's especially useful when you're facing a strong temptation. In other words, if you're facing the temptation of an ego, let's say lust, maybe it's in your mind or maybe it's through another person, repeat this prayer a lot. You can repeat it verbally or you can repeat it mentally, but chant it, sing it, repeat it, meditate on it. It has a lot of force that can be used to protect you. My personal favorite is the Fons Alpha et Omega. This prayer has so much power for so many different applications. It's truly astonishing. And that prayer is given in a number of books. It's in the Logos Mantra Theurgy. It's in Occult Medicine. It's in the Gnostic Prayer Book. Very beautiful. It's in Latin. And it's exceptional in its power. A very easy one is a prayer that we call Belilin, and it's a prayer that you sing. Also has a tremendous power to protect you and help you when you're being tempted. If you're having trouble with nocturnal emissions, wet dreams, sing this prayer as you fall asleep. It will help you a lot. And there are many others. Probably the most core and important are the Conjuration of the Four, the Conjuration of the Seven, and the Invocation of Solomon. These are really critical core pillars of white magic. Memorize them. You will need them. In subsequent lectures, we are going to talk more in detail about what these conjurations and prayers mean. All of them are on the website. All of them are in the books. Get the books. Read them. Study them. Read them every day. Meditate and memorize these prayers. Chant them. You can print out a single prayer. Keep it with you. And every time you think about it, take it out and read it and memorize it and keep chanting it. It'll have an impact on your life. Next, now that you've established a foundation to defend yourself, you need to protect your house, the place you live. Even if you just have a bed in a room with a lot of other people, you can still defend yourself. I know some people are poor and they don't have a house to themselves, but you always have a place to sleep. That place is your temple. Protect it. A very important rule, keep it clean. take out the trash. Trash, physically, may not smell, it may not look like much, but it also has a multidimensional aspect. And certain types of trash produce noxious elements in the vital and astral planes, elements that can make you sick, psychologically sick, even if it's not physically. Take out the garbage. Keep your house clean. Especially if you have roommates or neighbors who fornicate, who listen to terrible music, who do drugs, who smoke, do whatever they do. Those elements are not just magically kept in their place. Okay? They will come into your house. In the same way that air moves around through the building, through the neighborhood, so do these other elements. Walls don't stop them. Keep your house clean. You should also be using incense every day. A lot. Not so that you're choking, but so that you're keeping the place with a nice atmosphere. Incense brings a beautiful atmosphere. But most important here is to do regular cleansings. This means to find and utilize the right kind of incense that will cleanse the environment of impurities and negativities in the vital and astral planes. I'm talking about incubi, succubi, and astral larvae. If you ever leave your house to go anywhere, you are picking up astral larvae. Period. Because this entire planet, every person on this planet is creating them. Astral larvae are like bugs or insects or slugs. They have thousands of names in esoteric literature. They're little parasites in the internal planes that feed on filth. And obviously, we have a lot of filth. We're filthy and disgusting in the internal worlds. And these elements feed on that. So whenever you go to the mall, you get on the subway, you go on the bus, you get in a car, you go to a shopping center, you go to a government building, you go to work, you're around people who masturbate, who fornicate, who are involved in all kinds of sexual depravities, who are obsessed with stealing, with theft, with cheating people, who are alcoholics, who are drug addicts, and there are enormous, vast quantities of these astral larvae everywhere. And they cling to your vital body. They cling to your inner bodies to suck energy. Sometimes that's why we get sick. We need to cleanse that. We need to cleanse our house and make it clean. We need to cleanse our bodies. Taking a good shower helps a lot. Keeping yourself clean helps a lot. Keeping your clothes laundered, changing your bed sheets as much as you can stand to change them helps. But what you should do, once a week, once a month, whatever you feel is necessary, burn sulfur, burn asafoetida, sage, rue, camphor. Any of those elements will help. Sulfur is the strongest. It's toxic. So if you're going to burn, just so you're aware, if you're going to burn sulfur, you'll use a charcoal in a burner like an old pan or something. Get a charcoal going and put the sulfur and leave. And don't come back for a few hours or a day or whatever. If you're going to go out for the weekend or you're going to be out for the whole day, do it in the morning before you leave. And that sulfur will cleanse that place like you wouldn't believe. You'll come home and it'll feel different. It's truly amazing what it can do. Sulfur is the best. Asafoetida is also excellent. That's actually an Indian spice, but it's better to get the plant. If you can get the plant, get the plant. It's more effective. Sage is very common, easy to get. Burn sage and go around your house with the smoke. That'll also cleanse your body. And rue is similar. It's a plant. You can get these anywhere. And then after that, you have any other kind of incense that you want to use to perfume your house. And we all have zodiacal signs, and there are perfumes related with our astrological sign that can help. Next, have an altar. An altar acts as a beacon, as a storage center for energy. When you have an altar in your house and you meditate there regularly and you do your practices there regularly, you are charging that environment with energy. That has a big deal. If you don't have one now, set one up. It doesn't have to be fancy. Mine is so simple because I'm very poor. It's a little wooden table with a couple of candles, a little a glass of water and a thing to hold incense and a little cheap statue I bought 20 years ago that's worthless. That's my altar. Totally simple. And I have a pentagram. That's it. No big deal. Pentagrams. Pentagrams help a lot. These act as walls or defenses in the internal planes. For sure, you need one on your altar. For sure, you need one over your bed. For sure, you need them at your bedroom window. And for sure, you need one on the floor of your bedroom door. These are an amazing defense. And if you're having troubles now in your dreams and you put these up, it can change immediately. Because the lower level black magicians and creatures can't get past them. Higher ones, that's another story. We'll have to talk about more potent defenses in that case. But this will help you a lot. You can make your own pentagrams. You can buy them from the Gnostic store. But put them around. They're very powerful. Every night when you go to sleep, mentally trace a magical circle around your bedroom or your house. And this is to pray to your Divine Mother, to pray to your Divine Father, to beg for protection, and to visualize a wall of flame emerging around your house, and trace it with your mind 3 times, and chant the mantra, Helion, Melion, Tetragrammaton, 3 times. That will protect you. If you're not saving your energy, if you're not transmuting, nothing will happen. But then no one's going to come there to steal anything from you, because you don't have any energy to steal. But if you're transmuting, it will have power. And lastly, work with elementals. Elementals can do a lot to help you, to protect you, to defend you, and to guide you, to help you, give you information. Key in this effort are the maguey, the aloe, mustard seeds, the angel's trumpet, pine trees, cedar trees, a lot of examples. All of those practices are in the book Occult Medicine and Practical Magic, and in the book Igneous Rose. And also the aloe is described in the Tarot and Kabbalah book. Those are very, very important, especially when you're dealing with a very strong, painful situation. If someone's really attacking you hard, you're really having a hard time dealing with a person, these elementals can help you a lot. And they're easy to use. Oh, that's the end. Wow. I had a lot more to say, but I'm going to end there because that's 2 hours and I'm tired. So do you have any questions?
You said one of the prayers that I was put through, and still one was very powerful, and yet the Our Father was not as?
Not as.
Okay. Well, that was
different.
The question. Yeah, well, that was the differentiality. Was it? I mean, would you just?
They're different.
Less, or why use less?
It's hard to put into words. Each prayer, each mantra has a specific application. Both are used for protection. More specifically, if you're facing a temptation, if someone's trying to manipulate an ego or you're struggling with an ego, the Our Father is the best because it calls upon the force of your innermost, right? To give you strength in your 3 brains, to help you see your way and not be submitted to that temptation, to not fall victim to it. That's the power of that prayer. It creates a connection with your innermost. The Fons Alpha, on the other hand, is more like putting up a defensive shield. It's a prayer of protection. And in fact, that prayer is more important when you're actually being attacked, like someone's trying to hurt you or harm you or dissuade you from what you're trying to do. That would be more for the Fons Alpha. But the Fons Alpha is also important when you're trying to comprehend something. It could be a situation like that or even an ego. Fons Alpha has an amazing capacity to unlock doors in your psyche. Very powerful. And then you get to Belly Lean, which is kind of similar but different. It creates an environment in the internal planes that black magicians cannot stand. So they all work a little bit different. And you'll know when you start to really awaken in the astral plane and use them, you can see the effects. But it's hard to put into,
I understand.
into verbs. Yeah. The question here.
What direction does the altar have to face? Never understood.
Yeah, setting up an altar, there are a lot of details that you can apply. Some of them are in the book, The Yellow Book by Samael and Vior. It's best, if possible, for your altar to face the east. Right? So that when you're sitting at your altar, you're facing the east. But some houses it's not possible. So you can get it as close to that as you can. But if you can't do it, not a big deal. It can be a symbolic east. North is also good, but east is generally the preference. Is there a question here?
This is an antidote for getting us through the minor mysteries.
Is it an antidote for the minor mysteries?
Getting us through the minor.
No, nothing can get you through the minor mysteries except psychological change. Now, all of these techniques can help. They can help protect you and give you defenses, and help protect you when you're facing, temptations and struggles. And you're also demonstrating that you're learning how to use the techniques. That's all important. But truthfully, the only way to get through the minor mysteries is to pass the tests that the masters are giving you. So even if you do the Our Father the entire 24 hours of the day, if you fail the temptation, you failed. Simple. We have to pass the temptations. The tests of each of the 9 arcades. That's the only way. Another question? Yes.
Twilight, is that the morning sun? Twilight.
Twilight is any time the sun is just below the horizon. When you can't see the sun, could be morning or evening, from my understanding. It's that level of light where there's light, but you don't see where it's coming from. Any other question? One here?
A little bit. I'm not quite sure how to phrase it intelligibly, but can a sudden increase in psychic control or psychic abilities be attributed to dark magicians trying to awaken you to their side?
Interesting question. So you're asking if you experience a sudden increase in your abilities to manage your mind, could that be a sign of black magicians working you? It could be. It can be. Look for clues in your physical life. If black magicians are really trying to bring you into their path, there will usually be a physical component. They'll usually be watching you in the physical world. Not always, but generally. So take a look around. And also, have a healthy dose of skepticism about yourself. I can't even tell you how many people I have known who have become victims of their own paranoia. I couldn't even count. So don't become a victim of paranoia. Be a healthy skeptic of what you see, outside or inside, and defend yourself. If you suspect black magic, defend yourself. Apply these techniques, learn them. They're in the books. I just skimmed past it really quick. We didn't have time to go into detail. Memorize the mantras and prayers. Apply the principles in your daily life and awaken your consciousness. And you'll find out. If black magicians are manipulating you, you will find out if you persist. The reason is they cannot conquer God. You have God within. Your innermost is there. If you rely on Him, nobody can come between you and your innermost. Nobody. Not even 𝒂𝒊𝒂𝒓𝒊𝒕, the chief of the Black Lodge. Not even he can stop you. That's how great your innermost is. So put your faith in Him. Do your practice. Discriminate. Be prudent. Be smart. Another question? In the back? No? One here?
Thank you very much.
Oh. You're welcome. Another question here?
Okay, so you said that we're all under Arcanum 18. What's something that the students who have their inner urgency, the fundamental tendencies under 18? I know 𝑫𝒆𝒊𝒓𝒊𝒕𝒖���𝒂𝒓𝒆, some of his numbers were also 18, and he struggled more than anyone with being an initiate as well as being attacked under.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Well, the thing to remember is that no number is 100% negative. Numbers are relative. The only fixed value in existence is that one that is not fixed, which is the absolute. And every other thing that emerges from that is numbers. It's all Kabbalah, right? Everything that emerges out of the absolute is relative, even 18. That means that in the Arcanum 18, there is a great deal of beauty and a great deal of light, because you see the duality there. That duality is necessary in nature for nature to function. It's necessary. The Black Lodge and the White Lodge have always existed and will always exist. This is no mystery. It's normal. So if someone has the Arcanum 18 as their inner urgency or fundamental keynote, or has some other significance in their life, they need to meditate on that and uncover the mysteries that are hidden there. It could imply that they have a strong relationship with black magic from the past. Could easily mean that. It could also mean that they need to work with the 2 9s in order to become a perfect 9. And that's a deep mystery that only that person will be able to grasp through a lot of work on themselves. So there's no easy answer. But that's that way with any of the arcana. We all look at like the Arcanum 1 and we think, oh, it's the magician, it's the innermost, it's simple. No, it isn't. No arcanum is simple. None of them. They are cosmic laws. The entire universe is codified in those 22 arcana. There's nothing simple about that. And there's nothing fixed. They're all relative. As an example, you cannot understand 18 at all until you really understand 16 and 19. I mean 17 and 19, right? Because they're relative to the factors that surround it. If you want to understand the 18, know the 17 and the 19. And then you'll start to get a glimmer of what that's about. I'll leave it to you to investigate that. Any other question before we wrap it up? Yes?
You said to show no mercy to an ego and show love to black magicians, right? Well, usually in eternal planes, the egos are the black magicians, what I've experienced. So how do you distinguish with something like that?
So how do you distinguish in the internal planes? I'm getting tired, my tongue doesn't work. Between black magicians and your egos. Well, if you can't tell the difference, you need to defend yourself first, right? If you're being attacked, where did you go?
Oh.
I'm talking to you.
I know how to do that. That is the question.
If you're being attacked, defend yourself, right? And then to figure out what the situation is. You have to determine that. Simply that.
Yeah, you can conjure first before, yeah.
You have to conjure, no matter what. If you're under attack, if you're being hurt and harmed and pummeled and overwhelmed, defend yourself. Use your skills. And that's going to be the conjurations and the prayers and mantras that you know. Once you're in a stable position or out of that situation, you can then try to figure out what was going on. But it might take you a while. Any other question? Yeah.
You mentioned that we would use bodhicitta as a way to help ourselves when we're getting attacked by black magicians. But if we're doing that, then our innermost has some work that it's doing. Those black magicians aren't going to like it. They're going to attack you more. So when you do that element to help yourself, get rid of black, magic and attacks, there's still more people who are going to try and attack you because you're doing.
Yeah, it's true. Well, let me ask you a question. So you're saying the more that you try to have compassion and restraint, to have bodhicitta as your attitude towards black magicians, the more they're going to increase, right? It's true. But let me ask you something. If the darkness grows greater, doesn't the light also? Yeah. And if the light grows greater, the darkness grows also. It's converse. It's dual. This is part of the mystery of the Arcanum 18. But I'll give you a little hint there, because there's a dualistic loop you can get caught in. Well, if it's always like that, how do you get out of it? Right? If it's always black opposing white, what's the ultimate synthesis? It's the bodhisattva. The bodhisattva is the perfect 9 who goes beyond the 18. The bodhisattva goes beyond good and evil. It's neither good, it's not evil. It goes beyond. And neither the good or the evil can comprehend the bodhisattva. They just don't get it. Because they're locked in that dualistic battle. This is part of the tragedy of humanity. Even when we find a true path, like Gnosis, we adopt it, we begin to practice it, and maybe we start to awaken and develop the solar bodies or whatever. We start to become white magicians. Then we get locked in that dualistic struggle of black and white and never get out of it. That's what we call Nirvani's pratyekas or Shravakayana teachings. It's where we see that eternal struggle between the gods and the demons. Bodhisattva goes beyond that. And the key to going beyond that is bodhicitta. It is that attitude, conscious attitude. It's a paramita. So what I'm explaining is that this path, gnosis, is not the path of sainthood. It is not a path to simply become a saint and to become a prophet. It is not. It is well beyond that. You can become a saint. If you just want to be a saint and you just want to be an angel and you want to be locked in the eternal battle with the demons, you're welcome to it. And you will be eternally in that battle between good and evil. And you will eternally be cycling between good and evil. Because we see that. The angels rise and then they fall. And the fallen angels are demons. And after a while the demons go, oh, I'm tired of this. And they become an angel now. So he rises up, becomes an angel. And then he fights the demons. And then he gets caught in the battle again. And then he falls into being a demon again. And it goes on and on for countless ages. And it's been like that forever. Right? The antidote, the way out, is bodhicitta. It is to develop that power. Bodhicitta is not easy to grasp. So don't think, oh, I get it. You won't. It's not easy to get. Because bodhicitta is comprehension of the absolute, combined with cognizant love. It is the very essence of Christ. That's why it's the great power of the bodhisattva. When you comprehend what that means, I mean consciously, not in your intellect, but in your being, you become a different kind of person. You start to get a flavor of what it is to be beyond good and evil, and you start to understand what 𝑠amael was teaching, and is teaching. It's something different. It's not his own. It isn't ours. It's been taught by all the great saints. I mean, like the real ones. Krishna, Muhammad, Moses, all those great masters, bodhisattvas. So to become that is to rise beyond that duality of the 18. You see in that 18, there's always this dual force, right? These two factors fighting each other. As long as you're stuck there, you'll never get out of it. Bodhicitta is the way to go beyond them both. So don't think you'll get bodhicitta in like a couple of sentences from me, because I have a hard time explaining it because I don't even get it. I'm trying to get it. It's not easy. So is there another question? Please.
A person with a number 9 arcane, can that be pointing out that person is a bodhisattva?
No. No, if they have a number 9 in their numerology, it means they need to descend to the 9th sphere and work with the power of the 9. There is no numerological or metaphysical sign of a bodhisattva until the innermost reveals it or chooses that path for the person. I know everybody likes the idea of being a bodhisattva and thinks that's really cool, and maybe I'm one. The reality is something else. Master Samael said that fallen bodhisattvas are worse than demons. We're all fallen. I don't know about you, but I'd rather not be worse than a demon. So if I have to be a demon, at least I can just be a regular demon and not worse than demons. But, there are fallen bodhisattvas, and especially in the Gnostic movement, there are quite a lot. But again, they're worse than demons. Worse. Until they rise up. Until they resurrect. And that's precisely the problem. To go for one more second about that, when I was talking in the previous lecture about managing energy, we talked about how any given system has a given quantity of energy. Common souls like us all have a very limited amount of energy we can manage. And that shows in the impact that our lives have on other people. It's not much. Relative to the scale of the planet or the universe, our impact is completely insignificant. We maybe affect 2 or 3 or maybe 5 or maybe 40 or 50 at the most people, right, in what we do. It's not much. Bodhisattva, on the other hand, fallen or otherwise, can affect an entire planet because their vehicles can manage that much more energy. So when we see, I said earlier in the lecture that we have within us trapped enough energy to create a planet, to become a cosmo-creator. That potential energy is there to become a great angel who supports life forms. Bodhisattva can support a solar system, a galaxy, or a universe. So let's put it in perspective. If that person falls, think of how much power and energy they can move. An awful lot. If a bodhisattva becomes a black magician, very bad situation. Not just for 10 or 20 or 50 or 40 people, for billions potentially, depending on the level of that bodhisattva. It's a very tremendous statement to talk about bodhisattvas fallen or risen. We have to put it in context. It's a very tremendous thing. It's not normal, it's not common, it's unusual. It's odd. If you suspect yourself of being one, keep your mouth shut. Really. It will benefit no one for you to talk about that. Worse, it can hurt everyone. And if you hear other people talking about, oh, that guy is a fallen bodhisattva, or, oh, he's a rising bodhisattva, tell them to shut up. Because they're playing games with the tongue that can harm a lot of people. Especially if that person really is a bodhisattva and we start talking about them. Is that going to build their pride? Think about that pride and that bodhisattva, how many people they can hurt. Let's think about the people. Let's think about them. What's best for them? What's best for them is not to follow masters or go say, oh, I heard this guy over there is a fallen bodhisattva. Let's go see. Let's go see if he really is a great master. Let's go listen to his teaching and find out. What effect is that going to have on people? Bad. It's better just leave it alone. If someone really is a bodhisattva and they really rise up, that's great. That will help humanity a lot. And if they are not, leave them alone. Simple. Any other question?
No.
Good. Thank you.
The presentation of this lecture was made possible by donations from listeners like you. Help Gnostic Radio to help others. Make a donation by visiting gnosticradio.org. For questions and deeper understanding of this lecture, we invite you to explore the wide variety of resources available on our websites. Thank you for your support. May all beings be happy.